Welcome, citizens of Douglas County. Good morning. January 8th, 2024. Douglas County Board of Commissioners will come to order. County Clerk, please.
Yes, sir. We have Vice Chair, District 3 Commissioner Torinia Carthen.
Present.
District 1 Commissioner Ricky Dobbs.
Present.
District 4 Commissioner Mark Alcaraz.
Present.
Chairman Phil Miller.
Here. Commissioners, are there any changes that need to be made? Being none, the agenda. Reminder, you have 3 minutes to make.
Yes, sir, we did. Before I call you up, I'll just remind you of the rules, instructions for citizen comments. Please restate your name and address and subject matter when you reach the podium. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. Once you have reached your 3 minutes, please bring your comment to a close. Also, when you approach the podium, you'll find a mic at the podium. Please pick it up and speak directly into it. So our first citizen is Nathan Britt.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Nathan Britt, address 8854 Camelton Street, Douglasville, Georgia 30134. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Nathan Britt. I'm the President of Douglas County Professional Firefighters Local 2851. We are chartered members of the International Association of Firefighters. And on behalf of Local 2851, we would like to thank the current board of your support of the Douglas County Fire Department and for serving the citizens of Douglas County. Not sure if all the members are aware, but last year Douglas County Fire Department ran 23,823 calls. That's approximately 1,000 more than the year before. I'm here this morning to address a dire situation in the fire department. The fire department has reached critical staffing levels. Currently, there are 39 open positions of 181 at full staffing. Even at full staffing, we are not at NFPA minimum requirements. One shift has 15 open positions, and that's without vacation sick outs. This requires a shift to hire 10 more people to prevent shutting down units on overtime. Over the past few weeks, we're continually shutting down multiple fire units due to personnel shortages. On 12/24/23, we had 3 fire trucks and 1 ambulance out of service. This was after having an entire fire station shut down for an extended period of time. As a taxpayer and citizen of this county, I am concerned for the safety of my family and the citizens of Douglas County, along with the personnel on duty that are being put in danger with a lack of coverage. Without the dedicated personnel working overtime each and every shift to fill these open spots, the situation would be much worse. While we recognize that we're not the only department with staffing issues, we're also recovering and trying to rebuild from our previous administration. Currently, we have 46 personnel with a minimum of 10 years experience with the county. Without these 46 personnel, the department will not be able to function. Our issue now is we're taking experienced personnel off their assigned positions and utilizing them on ambulances due to the lack of qualified personnel for the EMS side. This in itself is a detriment to the delivery of fire protection to the citizens of Douglas County. This is also preventing us from hiring quality firefighters because of the fear of being stuck on the ambulance after being hired. We believe the time has come to have a conversation about the ability for the county to provide the emergency services that the citizens require. As Local 2851, I'm here to ask for your help in building and growing the Douglas County Fire Department. Knowing all of this, not only am I concerned for the safety and well-being of the firefighters in my family, but I'm worried about the safety of your family as well. Thank you.
You.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Sharon Bachtel.
Morning.
Morning. Sharon Bachtel, 6331 South Skyline Drive. Thank you for allowing me to speak about the budget. I heard some strange things from our elected officials last month. First, the tax commissioner was asking about $53,000 from his 2023 budget. Why did he wait until November to realize he was missing $53,000? When first asked what he was planning on doing with extra $300,000 in his 2023 budget, he could not answer that question. And what about that extra $900,000 in his budgets from the last 3 years that he didn't get around to spending? Inflated, padded budgets make our taxes higher. I would also like to clear up the confusion on the supposed $5.5 million grant. This was the homestead tax relief grant, which came from the state because they had leftover funds in their budget and gave money back to the property owners. This $5.5 million was a reimbursement to the county for giving the deductions to us. Every county in Georgia received this grant. Why did the tax commissioner say he did not know how much the county was being reimbursed? Is it not his office that gives our tax information to the state to receive the reimbursement? The coroner was complaining because her payroll was reduced, even though her total budget was only reduced by $50,000. If you look at her line item expenses, as of November, she had spent $164,000 on salaries. Her total payroll budget for salaries in 2023 was $378,869. Why does she need a $380,000 payroll budget if she is only going to spend half of it? She was over budgeted in 2023 for salaries, and this should be cut. Maybe if she did her main job of doing the investigations, she could save more money for her payroll. She also stated that she had 6 deputy coroners. Why are there 12 deputy coroners listed on her payroll? That is 12 people the taxpayers have to pay for yearly training and bonds. What kind of service are we getting with this large staff? I have heard that people have waited hours for the coroner's office to show up. How can a coroner change a job description that was voted on by the BOC? In 2017, the BOC voted that deputy coroner jobs would be contractual under the advisement of the county attorney. In 2021, the coroner changed this without the approval of the board. One way the BOC could find funds for these elected officials' budgets is to cap their fees. The probate judge received over $139,000 in fees in 2021 and over $140,000 in 2022. The clerk of courts received over $95,000 in fees in 2021 and over $97,000 in 2022. It is our tax dollars that pay for the work for these fees. Elected officials should not be getting rich off the backs of the taxpayers. Padded budgets makes it look like you need bigger budgets, which increases taxes. Cut back and give us back our 27%. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Kelly Talbot.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name again is Kelly Talbot, and I live on Lisa Court in Douglasville. I'd like to address the budget and then some building that's been proposed in our county. First, I'll briefly speak about the budget. I would like to commend the board for the notable budget spending reductions. I know you guys don't hear that often enough, but we do appreciate it. It takes a lot of the burden off the local taxpayers' back. Notably, including some individual commissioners have reduced their budget. Information services, communications, and the community service board were also reduced from what I saw. We, the taxpayers, applaud you for actively identifying excesses in our county's budget and eliminating them accordingly. I'd like to also say that at $2.8 million, the tax commissioner's budget is more than adequate and no increase at all is warranted, especially given the inability to previously count for already budgeted funds. Second, I'll speak to the proposed subdivision on Stewart's Mill Road. I believe I speak for the majority of longtime homeowning taxpayers when I say absolutely not. The residential building in this county is already out of control. We already have a huge apartment complex nearly completed at Lee Road and I-20. Another huge residential development has begun behind Mount Carmel Elementary and next to Chestnut Log Middle. Further down on Fairburn Road, there are newly built townhomes for lease. and a 55-plus complex is underway at Stewart's Mill and Douglas Boulevard. This isn't even a complete list. What we really need is a moratorium on all residential building for at least 1 year. Our existing power grids, roads, and schools need to be adequate to handle all this building currently underway. I don't think any of these are adequate to handle it. Traffic, as I've mentioned before, is intolerable. I implore you to please step back and consider the big picture of what's happening in our county. We'd like to preserve what quality of life we still have here. Please say no and put a stop to the building frenzy. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Wanda White.
Morning.
Morning, Wanda White, 6640 Pine Knots Drive, Douglasville. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners. I have many questions concerning the Tax Commissioner's Office cleaning contract and the Coroner's Office. Do keep in mind the Coroner is not a constitutional officer. So then why on 2/14/21 was there an amendment to the original Tax Commissioner's cleaning agreement between the Tax Commissioner and S&A Express Cleaning, adding the Coroner's Office to the Tax Commissioner's cleaning agreement at the tune of $2,800 a month, which is $33,600 a year to clean the Coroner's Office. Records show that the Tax Commissioner's cleaning fees are $2,100. Current bid for the 911 Center, $15, but the Coroner's Office is $28. Question, did the Board of Commissioners approve this? Why is the Coroner's part-time administrative assistant driving a take-home car since 2020? Municipal code states that part-time employees are not allowed a take-home car. Did the Board of Commissioners approve this? Open Records provided several documents requested with several dates not completed, filled out. That information was incomplete. Did the Board of Commissioners approve this? In August 22, there was another request for another take-home car, saying that the deputy or the administrative assistant needed it for deputy coroner backup. Why are we sending the administrative assistant to deputy coroner training, and why is he going to yearly meetings on that? Is it also illegal for an administrative assistant to sign documents stating that he is chief of staff when in reality he was an administrative assistant? Is the Board of Commissioners aware of that? Also in 421 and 22, the coroner promoted the administrative assistant to chief of staff with a $5 per hour pay raise increase for a part-time employee with a take-home car, free gas, free everything. So did the Board of Commissioners approve this? That's over $44,000 for a part-time position. Why is and also too, why was the chief of staff's pay retroactive? Those records have been requested to see how far back that retro pay went. Why is the administrative assistant being sent to deputy coroner yearly classes? Why does a part-time employee yearly deputy assistant train in meetings? Why are the deputy assistants claiming people have died twice? For an example, and I have documentation, June of 22 and December of 22, the same person passed away. There are multiple overcharges by the deputy assistants. In 2022, there were 10 duplicated deaths, and in 2023, there were 8 duplicated deaths. Of course, I have plenty more, but
Thank you
for your
it.
time.
Thank you. No one else signed up.
Okay. Next on our agenda is meeting minutes. Commissioners, please review the minutes before. We will now begin with our agenda items. Clerk, please begin with the first agenda item.
Sir, number 4 is we have authorization to advertise for a public hearing to consider amending the Douglas County Code of Ordinances regarding Chapter 8, Emergency Medical Service and Ambulance Service Providers, and Chapter 10, Section 21, Malfunctioning Fire Alarms Fees. Therefore, and a new section regarding fees of service. Chief Allen is here to explain that.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chair, Commissioners, Administrative Assistant. We spoke about the updating the county ordinances, Chapter 8 and Chapter 10. Chapter 8 is the chapter on emergency medical services and ambulance service providers, which discuss different things that we do on the EMS side. We want to update some information within this particular ordinance. A lot of it is grammatical changes. Some of it is updating the services that we provide and changes some of the language that was used prior to what we did as far as the updates. It does have some of our fee schedules in there for Chapter 8 for medical services. And once again, it's just changing some of the language. Chapter 10 goes more into our fee schedule for just malfunctioning fire alarms, but it also goes a little bit more in depth as far as changing the language as far as stages of emergencies, fee schedule on fire marshal's offices, as far as construction reviews, civil plans, fire alarms, hoods, sprinkler reviews, things of that nature. And then looking deeper into our response as far as fee schedule for non-resident vehicle accidents and roadway fire fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is number 5, approval of an off-premise beer and wine alcohol license for Baggett Business, Inc. at 2791 South Baggett Road, Winston, Georgia, 30187. Allison Duncan.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners. Tomorrow we will have a public hearing. This is for an off-premise beer and wine alcohol license. This is for the property at 2791 South Baggett Road. So this is the new gas station and convenience store that is just opening in that area. We have put all due notice in the newspaper. We have posted signs to the property. The application does meet all of the minimum requirements of the code. So staff is going to recommend approval. The applicant will be with us tomorrow for the public hearing if you have any questions at that time. But otherwise, unless there's anything else for me, that's all I have for you on this one this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In that
I can certainly have that number for you. I can email it to you this afternoon and I can have it to present. But in that area, would that be sort of like the west side of Veterans Memorial between sort of Douglasville and the,
exactly.
okay, I'd be more than happy to have that number for you. I can email it and then we'll have it to present tomorrow. All right, thank you.
Next, we have number 6, resolution to approve the 2024 Douglas County State and Federal Legislative Agenda. Tiffany Stewart Stanley.
Good morning, Chairman, Board of Commissioners. I'm before you today for our annual adoption of a resolution approving the Douglas County State and Federal Legislative Agenda. As you all know, we met with our state legislative delegation on December 8th, 2023. That is an annual meeting that we have every year with the delegation as well as all of our other organizations and elected officials in the county to meet with the delegation to discuss upcoming legislation for the next year. The legislative session actually begins today. So the legislators are going into their 40-day session, which typically runs from the second week in January through the end of March into the first week of April. So I'll briefly give you a statement of purpose. The reason why we adopt this agenda each year, because it serves as the foundation for the county's legislative program. And we do this analysis pretty much of our political and economic climates of not only our state, but our country. And I'm gonna briefly go through each one of the proposed priorities. A lot of them are some of the priorities that we had last year, so most of you all will be familiar with them. So the first one is a public notification of tax increase. And what we are asking the legislature for is just to simplify the notification so it's easier for our taxpayers to understand. The second one is expand behavioral health support and provide appropriate mental health services. As you know, we did pass a resolution on November 14th encouraging the legislature to continue to do that. And there is already some legislation that has been filed that we've asked our state legislators to support. One of those bills is HB 520, which is known as the Mental Health Reform Bill. Our next one is homeowner protections, and we're asking our legislators to help provide stronger protections for property owners and homeowners associations, and we support amending the Property Owners Associations Act to provide better protections for property owners when homeowners associations fail to meet their obligations. And there's already some legislation pending, filed by one of the members of our delegation, Senator Donzella James, and that's Senate Bill 29 and Senate Resolution 37. And that resolution calls for a study of homeowners associations to see what legislation needs to be passed in order to help protect homeowners. The fourth one is juvenile court. We're supporting a study of the juvenile court system to assess with funding and staffing. When we talk with our juvenile court judges, our juvenile programs, one of the things that they talk about is a lack of funding and a lack of staff support from the state level. So we're asking for a study to be done in order to assess that. As we know, HB 462, the Raise the Age Act, is currently pending, and that bill would raise the age for our juveniles. And so that would have a significant impact on our juvenile courts and our juvenile programs. So that's something that we'll be monitoring. Public works bidding. One of the things that we'll be supporting is raising the bid threshold for public works projects from $100,000 to $250,000. And that's due to inflation, and that will help us be able to work through a lot quicker getting bids out. And this is also something that most of the counties will be supporting through ACCG this year, asking for that bid threshold to be raised. We're also asking the state to take full responsibility for their state prisoners while they're in our local jails. And we are asking for an increase in the per diem rate. Our seventh priority is supporting the adjustment of the current Medicaid funding for EMS. And then number 8, we are opposing any state preemptions on design standards, short-term rentals, and build-to-rent subdivisions. Counties, we feel like it is the best interest of each community for the Board of Commissioners to make those decisions regarding their community. And there are a couple bills pending right now that we are asking our legislators to actually oppose that would preempt local governments from regulating dwellings and design standards. Sales tax and digital rentals and subscriptions, we're just asking the legislator to provide parity and making sure that all digital services are taxed in the same aspect as their physical counterparts. And number 10, we're just once again focusing on our youth. We're supporting an assessment of the organizational functions and processes of the Georgia Division of Family and Children Services. As you know, you previously passed 2 resolutions this past year, one in support of establishing a 3rd state court judge for Douglas County, and the second one is urging the governor and General Assembly to continue their efforts of reform and improve mental health services. So we will be working to further those efforts. There are a few funding requests, and I'll briefly go over those. Transportation funding for setting and planning and designing of construction of I-20 and the I-285 interchange. This is on the western side of Atlanta, but as we know, it will definitely help improve traffic and safety for all of the counties in western Georgia. We're encouraging funding to look at our Bright Star Bridge and I-20 corridor. And then, as always, we're asking for additional funding for our Lee Road widening and the Lee Road extension. And we're also asking for support for to be able to study, plan, and design the construction and operational improvements from Chapel Hill Road to Hospital Drive. As we know, that's a very heavy traffic area in Douglas County. And then we're also asking for support for our CHC Regional Greenway Trail, which will connect Boundary Waters to Sweetwater State Creek Park. And so there's a couple funding initiatives. One, more funding for our proposed Chapel Hill Innovation Learning Library. And then we also are in support of funding for an additional satellite outpatient veteran clinic in the county for our citizens who are veterans who have medical and behavioral health needs, so they don't have to leave out the county. And so for our federal legislative priorities, we have 5 of those. 1, promote project streamlining. I think that's self-explanatory, just making sure that counties can navigate the vast jungle of federal regulations and make sure that those are streamlined as much as possible. We're also asking our federal legislative partners to expand behavioral health support. The third one is the Medicaid, Medicare, federal inmate exclusion. We are asking our federal legislators to allow our inmates who are being detained to keep their benefits during the pre-adjudication period. So that way our local jails don't have to pick up those expenses. And then of course, we're also asking our federal partners for funding for juvenile justice. And then last but not least, we're in support of funding the transition from our current 911 system to an internet protocol-based system. And so that concludes my presentation for the priorities, and I'll yield for any questions.
A couple of questions. Priorities. Mental health. All of our public safety, really. So I just want to make sure, please keep an eye on how that will affect, especially because already safety is one of the biggest budget items. So we just want to make sure that someone is keeping an eye on that for us, so that we knows that it's coming down, so then staff can appropriately help to. Because with a mandate, we really don't have a choice, right?
That's correct. We don't, and we tend to get a lot of those lately. So that's one of the things that we will be monitoring. We monitor all of the legislation that comes through that affects counties. Attend all of our. We do the local county ACCG lobbyist meetings, as well as their advocacy meetings. So we will definitely be looking out for that.
Question I would like for us, since we have someone down here, that comes down the pike, and we choose where those dollars go. For us, we already have CSB kind of intercepting spaces. If we, the county, where those dollars go, as opposed to a separate insurance entity, something like that, I think that would be better for us, because that would be local control, and then they won't be preempting how we appropriate. All in favor of HB 520? We need the state to help us appropriate for mental health. Like it's all on the backs of the county. That with how we have had to possibly cut CSB responsibility for mental health inside. HOAs is a big one. Plethora of HOAs. And so glad to see that Senator James actually heard that cry and is doing a study committee on HOA. We hear. And of course, everybody knows like funding for the library for Chapel Hill. So just excited about those. Yeah, I think those are I really wanted that as we're down at the Capitol for this legislative 40-day session. I know it goes quick, but if we could kind of push those upon my request, and I'm hopeful that the rest of the BOC would stand with me. With that, I yield.
Transportation, pushing the funding or the study for Bright Star I-20 corridor or on-off exit. Stated this, take a lot of pressure off of Highway 5 and also off of Post for those two different, especially during our rush hour. Lord bless some of those people. But I want to make sure that we keep an eye on that one, because I really think that those citizens that live in District 4 that, you know, transport their kids to and from school through there, you know, right there at the elementary school, big help for traffic on
All right, I will work with Director Rana so we can try to make that a reality.
I think maybe
All right, I will get with staff and we'll take a look.
Ready to move on? Okay. Number 7, we have the 2024 budget adoption that was tabled on December 19th, 2023. Rosalind Miller is here to answer any questions.
Good morning. So what is before you is the proposed budget. Hasn't changed since the last meeting based off that finance recommended. Those were administrative errors. Other. Oh, okay. Sorry. I guess that's right. So the budget hasn't changed since the last meeting.
Am I to take from that statement that no department has changed?
That is correct. Since the last that I've mentioned about for the grant employees or, you know, those last deductions, it was about $500,000. I can read them again if that
would help.
Okay. Okay, so for the district attorney, we increased the budget by $385,000, and this was due to grant a match for their employees. For Superior Court Felony Drug Court, we increased their budget by $27,596, and this was also for grant match. State Court, we reduced their budget. It was by $61,000, and that was more than their request, so that was an error. We're giving them more than they even requested, so we did remove 61. Public Defender's Office, we increased their budget by $81,739, and that was due to grant match. For the Board of Equalization, the Tax Equalization Board, we increased theirs by $47,000. That was their part-time employee that's in that department. That was not included. Community Service Board, we decreased our budget by $375,000. And Parks and Rec, the Activity Center, we increased by $373, and that was due to administrative error. And then we offset those increases to reduce our contingency, and that balances the budget. So your general fund budget is still $127,279,876, and all the other funds and restricted funds have remained the same. And that was based off of what they've requested.
So a couple of items that were brought up as concerns should be addressed. I know if you give to one, you'll have to offset from another. I understand that. Of course, the policy of ensuring that we stay within what we collected the prior year. So what did we collect? What are you all assuming that we collected for the prior year?
And remember, and I guess this is, you have to understand, this is based off of what we're going to receive in 2023, and it's 98% of the revenue
collected.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we have estimated at the amount of your general fund budget, and that's 127 million. But however, that's why we're suggesting to have a mid-year, because by mid-year, we're going to know what our revenue is, what we actually collected. So that's why we're asking for a mid-year, and we can address some of the concerns that we're having now. But the county administrator has not changed his budget since the last discussion that we've had. And also, you have to understand, around that time too, you're going to be looking at the millage rate to fund this budget. So you would have justification, if you do increase this budget, for your millage rate to just the rollback or increase depending on the board. But for that revenue, the 127 that you have to understand, that's also based off of the rollback. It was a amount, we didn't use a current, and so that was about $1 million. So your budget is also less $1 million. Just imagine if we had $1 million to this budget, we probably would be able to do a lot more. But you have to understand that, it's nothing that we just woke up and said we want to cut everybody's, request. We're just trying to, be within policy, and also by law too, you have to have a balanced budget. And if we use fund balance, we're going to have to change our fiscal policy. And I know the county administrator does not, he helped, along with you with that policy. So I'm not sure if, that's something he wants to do. We can ask him, but so that's where we are. So we're saying there is light at the end of the tunnel, because we're going to be able to see exactly what our revenue comes in. This is an estimate. We're estimating, and we're only the first month in January.
So with that explanation, again, there are some departments, like I'm looking at, Board of Health. Did they come in and request the amount that's on here, or is that what we typically give them?
That's what we give them.
So we have had, you know, tons of elected officials ask us, even the DA, ask us to increase or to match or to do what we can. I think we need to look at some of these others that we normally fund, such as, you know, economic development, those types of entities. So it would be my request that you all look at some of these before tomorrow, and I'll get with you, I'll get with the county administrator, because I don't want to prolong us right now, because some of these don't line up with our priorities and funding.
Right, and Commissioner because we can right now amend but if you, just like with and I'm using this as an example, just like, you know, just like the tax commissioners asking for the 217. I'm stating that the county administrator is strong on this proposed budget. Doesn't violate policy and he wants to stay within state guidelines. So right now, today, I can write down the amendment. If we want to amend any budgets today, I can take note of that, and then we, you know, it will be voted on. Because I think that going back, and I guess the county administrator can speak, but I don't know if he's going to change the budget. I think it's just going to remain the same, and I think the only way we can change it, because it is a proposed budget from him, and the policy or the procedure for the budget is that he comes up with this budget and then the board amends the budget. This is a proposed budget. So if he's going to change it, then I agree. Yeah, I'll go back but if not, I state that we amend the budget now. We amend his budget, you know, now.
So this is, how many budgets have you done with me?
It's probably been 3.
Yeah, this is my 5th. So the budget is presented, but we pass it and we amend it.
Right.
Right. So I like that he gets with you, he presents it, and he does what he's supposed to do, but it's the Board of Commissioners that changes it.
Right.
I just want to make sure that you have the right narrative.
Right. That's what I'm asking you to do right now.
Got you.
Is to change, like if we want to increase the tax commissioner's budget by 217, you just compel me. You say, I want to amend the tax commissioner's budget by 217. I agree. The board, you know, the county administrator.
I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
I'm ready to take note. That's what I'm saying. I'm ready to amend the budget to move on. So,
I got you.
Yeah,
because I want us to pass a budget tomorrow.
Oh, I do too.
You know, and I would love for it to be 4-0, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's the goal. We both have the same goal.
All right, so as long as we're in the same place.
I just need direction. You just need to tell me what to change, and I'll change.
Got you. So let me take a look at just a few other of the line items that we have appropriated for in the past, and let's see if we can get to a resolution onto some of these items. And the second thing I want to ask you in regards to the budget is the audit. When are we going to be finished with the 2022 audit?
Well, so they have the schedule, the auditors have their schedules. And so now the process is if they have any questions, they return them. I've been seeing a lot of returns for the elected officials for their bank statements and also trial balance. So I'm going to have to get with the elected officials that I have not received that information from. So that's one. They're looking at ARPA now and also the Connect Douglas. So once they provide a draft from us, then we can do our analysis on the audit and provide them. So we're going through a process. So it's not a stop or slow. It's just this is just a process.
And how long do you anticipate that will take?
I would, I'm going to have a meeting with the auditors this week, and so I'll be able to see when they'll be able to provide us with a draft.
And after that, how long does your analysis usually take?
Oh, it takes a day. Yeah, it would take a whole day as long as, you know, there's no major budget, you know, we're working on. So, yeah.
I hear you. You want me to pass this budget so that you can be able to do your other work, because this is daunting, right? It's a task.
It is. Yeah, but I know that you guys have the hard part. come up with the numbers and I just make changes, so.
Got you. So yeah, so the audit is definitely a priority as well as this budget, but also just ensuring that we appropriate based on the legislative priorities and based on what the citizens gave us as the 5 strategic priorities of this county. I just don't want us to get away from that. And on the other note, where it comes to the elected officials, at some point we need to get a list or get a training together with them on how to better do these types of audit exercises. Maybe we can do it on a quarterly basis, helping them to get together their receipts and things, because I don't want this to continue to be a holdup within the county budgeting process.
totally
It doesn't look good, and I believe we can do better as a whole.
Yes, and that's
So-
one of the suggestions from the auditors is
Oh,
that they
okay.
have somebody that has some type of accounting, knowledge.
Knowledge
So,
within, within their
I
office.
totally agree.
Okay.
And then accounting software system, so. that can
Right,
do
so
it.
that we could all be on the same page, because what I hear from New World is a lot of the elected officials and others are having issues with New World and what they're looking at and and what is based on their knowledge and their list based on what is actually in the system. So again, we got some areas that we need to clean up. Not that, it should hinder us in providing the services for the citizens or getting people what they need, but we still need to do a better job in our processes.
Totally agree.
All right, with
Yes.
that, I yield.
Question, Rosa. So how long have we been waiting, how long have we been waiting for these additional records or bank statements from other elected officials?
Well, and it's not the last note the auditors have to see, they did mention bank recs, but usually we get the bank recs. What it is that the auditors are looking, before we used to just like hand or create a Excel spreadsheet and say, this is their balance sheet statement, this is their income statement. So this year, the auditors are saying, no, we need their software system. We want to see it in their accounting system. So my colleague went to each elected official and we asked, hey, do you have the software system? We need to pull a trial balance and an income statement. So we did receive it from the majority, but there's still some elected officials that we haven't received. So this has been going on from, the beginning. It's been difficult. This has been an issue because we received a finding for this, and it's each item that we received a finding for, that's what we're trying to concentrate on. That's what I'm trying to concentrate on. With the ARPA, that's what, trying to clean that up. But the ARPA, the not receiving some of the documents from the elected officials, it's just, it's a lot. When you're having a conversation going back and forth with the auditors, and then you're trying to, get it, I guess, articulated to the elected official, because it is their account. So it's kind of, it's difficult. It's been difficult. So it's been at the beginning, since the beginning of the audit process.
All right, so this is, or just ended up my first, just from my knowledge, what happens if we continue not to be able to get this information?
We're going to probably hand do it, and then we'll get a finding.
All right, I yield, Chairman.
Record, so the request,
Oh, that is correct.
got it,
Yes.
so everybody didn't get what they wanted, and if they did, people of this community, we could get out.
That is correct.
Worked hard to try to correct budget.
Oh, definitely. And I want to thank citizens that spoke today, too.
Number 8, authorization to accept the VOCA grant award from the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, funding to the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia in the amount of $124,202 with no match, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Laura Thompson.
Good morning, everyone. This is a continuation grant, and we are asking authorization for the VOCA grant for the CJCC and the PAC in the amount of $124,202 with no match, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents and pending final legal review.
Thank you, dear.
I'd like to say one other thing. In our department, in the DA's department, all documents have been turned in.
It ain't me.
It ain't me. I give everything to the auditors that they ask for. So if anybody needs anything from me, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 9, authorization for Douglas County Sheriff's Office to renew an annual agreement with Kone Inc. for services and maintenance of elevators in the monthly amount of $1,853.40 to be funded through the Sheriff's Office budget, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Lieutenant Colonel Pounds.
Good morning. So Kone services our elevators. We've been with them since 2011. They come out to do monthly inspections and service the elevators. Most of the parts that they have to replace are done without any further cost. We explored other companies in the past, but they get the service parts from Kone. So instead of going through the middleman, we go straight to Kone and get those parts from them and let them service the elevators.
Okay. Number 10, authorization for Douglas County Sheriff's Office to renew an agreement with West Douglas Fire Extinguishers, Inc. for inspection and maintenance of all sprinkler systems and fire extinguishers at the Douglas County Sheriff's Office facility for the period of January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2024 in the amount of $31,997.98 be funded through the Sheriff's Office budget, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Lieutenant Colonel Pounds.
West Georgia Fire Extinguisher does the services and the maintenance and inspections for our sprinkler systems and our fire extinguishers. Been with them since 2012. We explored other companies as well with this particular item, but they are not certified to do everything that is needed to be done to pass inspection. So we just go straight through West Georgia Fire Extinguisher.
Number 11, authorization to approve Centos Standard Rental Service Agreement with Landfill and DOT Maintenance and Construction to be funded through the Landfill Department's budget, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Keith Cowart.
So, all this. Question.
Could you grab the mic, sir?
Keith, use the mic.
It was a small change pricing, and it took a long time to actually get the numbers, how it broke down through legal and then back to us. But they did, and we're actually saving money from it. So the change in money is not, it increased. It increased and decreased depending on the items. We do shirts, coveralls, floor mats, that kind of thing. So all in all, we're with this new contract, and legal is good with it. Now there was 3 other paragraphs that they did not like they didn't want to agree to it, and they took those out. We have a thumbs up, green light once again. pass it this time. I won't bring it back until next year. Got one. Okay.
Okay, number 12 is approval to enter into an agreement with OpenGov for cartograph software services for 2024 in the amount of $15,431.21 for tracking daily work orders to be funded from DOT maintenance's budget, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. And can you hold the mic up a little bit more? Thank you.
Okay. Never had a problem not being loud enough. Always the opposite. So OpenGov is the new name. They took over. They did the word has escaped my head right now. But OpenGov acquired Cardiograph. And what Cardiograph is what DOT uses, and it just tracks our work orders, which is a big deal. That's why we, how the citizens send in complaints, how we do the paving, and how everything gets tracked, goes in and out, and who did it, and that kind of deal. So this is just a new software that's upgraded. And since they changed the name and the name's changed on the contract, then we need a signature. Other than that, nothing has changed. The amount this year is $700 more than last year, but it's not a price increase. It's fell. So any other questions on that? Nothing further.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 13, approval to enter into a contract with the Path Foundation for professional services for planning segments of the countywide multi-use path system in the amount of $249,930 to be funded from the 2016 SPLOST, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Allison Duncan.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board of Commissioners. Again, I am glad to be before you today to present an opportunity to work with the Path Foundation. The Path Foundation builds trails throughout Metro Atlanta. They previously had done the 2004 four-county greenway concept along the Chattahoochee River, so they are familiar with Douglas County. We have $250,000 in 2016 SPLOST that was allocated towards trail building, so we are proposing to allocate those funds towards this contract. We would be working on feasibility studies for 2 potential trail segments. I have those on a slide if you would like to look at them. And then in addition to the feasibility study, we would be looking to fund construction documents for 1 model mile of the trail. So based on the feasibility study and the construction documents, this would set us up to allocate funding, pursue grant funding, and pursue private resources, which the Path Foundation is able to assist us with for the future development of the trail. Would like to make sure that I acknowledge our colleagues in the Transportation Department and the Parks Department who have helped us in bringing this forward to you, and also want to just remind you that pretty much every long-range planning document we have adopted for Douglas County does emphasize trail building for the county. So we put a county-wide concept in the comprehensive plan update, and since that time we have worked to pursue opportunities for starting to initiate this project. So if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to address those today. Otherwise, we would hope for your approval of this contract for the meeting tomorrow.
These trails that are lined up on some private property, how do we deal with that?
So any trail that could potentially wind up on private property would only be done if that property owner either granted us an easement for trail building or if the property was sold to the county as a part of the trail building initiative. We would not put any trails on private property without express permission for that trail to be there.
The mile trail that you're talking about building. What's the cost?
I don't have a cost that I would be comfortable sharing with you today because we don't know what the specific considerations would be for that model mile. We don't know if it would involve any sort of right-of-way acquisition. We don't know if it would involve any kind of bridges or any infrastructure that would cross over water features. So any number that I could potentially give you today would not be at all realistic without knowing exactly where we plan to construct the model mile. And looking at the Sweetwater Creek Greenway segment, and I can pull that up, I think. So that's the, sorry. So the Sweetwater Creek Greenway segment that we're looking at is approximately 6 miles in total length, right? So that's what you're looking at up there. It's designed to take advantage of floodplain, which is otherwise undevelopable, except you can put infrastructure trails and things like that through the floodplain. So we're looking at that as a possibility. And then what we're referring to as the Dog River Trail. These are just working names, placeholder names. What you're looking at up there is approximately 10 miles. Of potential trail. So somewhere within that 16 miles, we would look to see, you know, where is the one that we could build the most efficiently and most quickly to prove the concept will work here in Douglas County. And so you can tell between those two segments, there's going to be lots of variation of what that could potentially be. So to give you any kind of a estimate of what that would cost at this time would just be a totally fabricated number on my part.
So are these paved trails?
That would be the recommendation of the staff. We would want to make sure that what we're doing is building out an alternative transportation network. Part of that is to be able to be competitive for funding so that we could use state and federal funding sources. But we also want to make sure that we're taking into consideration issues of disability and access for all citizens of Douglas County. So we would anticipate that this would be probably somewhere between a 12 and 20 foot right of way with approximately 8 to 12 feet of concrete paving that would meet all disability standards.
So we'd be looking at probably more than $1 million a mile, I would guess.
Yes, sir. I think that's a safe assumption.
I've been asked a lot of questions this weekend about it, and I just wanted you to answer to clear it up for the people in the community. What they can do in case, you know, supposed to go through some of their property. What some of the costs are.
Absolutely. And as you know, if this is a project I'm bringing to you, there's a fairly safe bet that there is going to be a public engagement process. So there will be a steering committee that we will use as a part of this. And you know, I set a big table and all are welcome. So anybody who wants to participate on that steering committee is more than welcome to reach out to me and say that they would like to come to those meetings. Even if they only want to drop in periodically, all of those meetings are going to be open to the public. We will have a project website. We will make that very transparent. And the other thing that I want to be sure to mention, I feel like it should go without saying, but before we would propose any model mile, we would bring that back to the Board of Commissioners. So the plan is to use about $50,000 of the money to do a feasibility study for this entire area that we have shown you. But before we kind of say, hey, that's the area we want to start with, we're going to bring that right back to you at one of these meetings and say, this is what we're looking at.
Here.
Next, number 14 is a preliminary plat approval for Walters Creek subdivision, and Phil Schaefer.
How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you. Chairman, Commissioners. So this morning we have a revised preliminary plat request for certificate of preliminary plat approval for property at 5010 Stewart Mill Road. It's 22 acres. The current zoning is residential low density. It will be developed according to those standards. They do not require rezoning. The site will be served by sewer, and that allows a minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet. They are proposing, however, only 41 single-family detached units, and that's a density of 1.84 units per acre. They would be allowed 2.29 total. Project is going to provide almost 3 acres of open space and an active play area for the owners, and a homeowners association will have to be developed to manage the site. Staff is recommending approval and authorizing the certificate of preliminary plat approval and accepting in principle all right-of-way dedications as shown and required under the UDC, and allowing the chair to sign all documents related thereto pending legal review as needed.
So the preliminary plat before Schaefer is from a development company?
It
A
is.
developer?
Yeah. Curly Family Homes?
District is Alcarez.
I think it's Alcarez because it's north of Stewart Mill. Yeah.
All of these would be not age restricted.
Not age restricted, all fee simple, 15,000 square foot lots. 1,800.
Square feet, 41 houses.
41 houses.
That's what's proposed in the subdivision.
Correct.
2 and 3 car garage.
2-car garages.
I'll yield to my colleague on this. A lot of infrastructure may be needed down there, not just finished. Road paving down there and widening. I don't know if we're ready for this. I'm not a fan of some developers within the county. They always do great projects. But this is I'll yield and we'll hear the hearing tomorrow. Thank you.
Alcarez.
I think I've made it known that I'm not fond of a lot of these smaller lots because I believe, as one of our citizens stated, we have got to slow down because our infrastructure, that is the reason why we have so much traffic. You know, this I don't believe I have ever plat. What changed from the previous one?
So the original one had proposed a subsurface detention pond under the play area, and that became cost modified where the facilities go for this to be on the far side of the stream that's in the rear of the property. So losing several acres of the rear of the property, environmental issues at the back end, can't really develop quite as many. Original idea was. I don't know if you paid any attention a couple of years ago when the first go around came through, and it was something on the order of 111 units, but requesting zoning as well. So just within the current zoning.
I'm just going to make it known that I am not a fan, probably not going to be for the next 3 years that I'm in here, of a lot of these, what I call cookie cutter subdivisions. Previously, I think we need to slow down, and I'd hope that my fellow commissioners would also look and think of that same mindset, because I know my District 3 commissioner is having a lot of fun with Chapel Hill Road. So anyway, I'm going to yield.
Well, and just as a point, you had a suggestion earlier about a moratorium on growth in the county, and if the commissioners wish to put forth a genuine reason for that moratorium in order to study something, sure, Allison and I could figure out how that would work legally, as long as you have a significant reason that you feel the county is behind on. Moratoriums on growth are allowed. You have to have a very, very specific reason, and it has to meet the legal criteria for why you would initiate a moratorium.
Good information.
Yes, sir.
So you brought up a good point in terms of growth. We know Douglas County is a growing county because we're a Metro Atlanta county. And a lot of the questions that are asked of us as commissioners when we're out and about is, why don't we have this type of restaurant? Or why don't we have this type of establishment here in the county? Why do I have to go to Cobb County or Fulton County for these types of amenities? And a lot of that does have to do with rooftops. It has to do with economic development and how a developer sees the county that they're investing in, because they do want to make a profit when they come here. That's their whole reason to come. And so for us as a board of commissioners, we do have there's a balancing act of how we decide to grow the county, where we have the growth, right? How do we ensure that the infrastructure that we have going in that area matches the development as well? And so I know our DOT does a great job in helping us to do that. Planning and zoning does a great job of helping us to do that. But again, it's the citizens who have to come out and talk to us about these things. And planning and zoning is one of the great areas that we do have citizen participation. But I do want the Board of Commissioners to understand, I know we have a lot of new commissioners here, but when you start enacting moratoriums on development and growth, there is repercussions on the other side of that. So again, I would admonish us to look at where we want growth and what type of growth, not to stop it altogether, but just to ensure that we decide the type of growth that we want. We know housing is a shortage. There's a shortage all over the county, all over the state, all over the nation. And so one of our biggest shortages is senior housing, right? So I'm always a proponent of senior housing. How can we do that? And then the other side of that is for new young development, right? For those who are 20 to 30 who are just starting out and don't want to stay in their mama's basement forever. Right. So how do we balance that? So that's one of the things that I'm hopeful that the planning and zoning and other, Mr. Worthington and others will be able to help us when we are deciding these types of things.
You all have accomplished a great deal because we just approved the comprehensive plan rewrite last year,
right,
which provides a significant road to solving some of these issues.
Actually,
put policies in place that change a lot from last time,
so that we won't have the bottleneck that we do have on Chapel Hill Road.
Right.
So we need to plan accordingly. So again, I thank you guys for the great work that you continue to do and for giving us those ideas and insight. With that, I yield.
Okay, number 15 is proposed annexation by the city of Douglasville for .82 acres located at 11941 Veterans Memorial Highway. Bill Schaefer.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we tried to work with this landowner at the time to see if they could develop this site in the county. The problem is that a portion of the property is in the city. At the address they've given us is county zoning. Next door to the west immediately is city. And you can't do multi-jurisdictional construction. It doesn't work. So I was hesitant to offer going back to the city council to request de-annexation after the last time I tried to get something de-annexed. Didn't fare very well. So they suggested, well, let us annex this. There is no county investment in the property. There's no ramifications for the annexation itself. Staff is supportive of the annexation. One caveat that I'd like to write a letter to the city to let them know you all don't have an objection, but the site is going to be our DOT access review. Because there's zoning on the other side of the street, our DOT still maintains control over access management. That's true on both sides. Even though it fronts Highway 78, the other side of Highway 78 and the tracks is still county zoning. So our DOT would have input to the Georgia DOT as to what goes on that frontage. And then on Dura-Lee, we also would have absolute control over that driveway annex and the construction of how it gets done. They went through our DRC process already, and they understand what would be required, and they still want to go through the annexation. Just recommending approval, no objection, and the caveat that the DOT for the county is still in control.
We have number 16, approval of a contract with Axon for body-worn cameras for the Animal Services Department in the amount of $13,365.44 for the first 2 years to be funded by the ARPA Technology Fund, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Alex Bettencourt.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. So last year or earlier this year, the Animal Services Department came to us, told us that they were looking for body-worn cameras similar to our Sheriff's Department. They've had cases where they had to document certain issues with the work that they do on the field. Having those cameras would have been beneficial for them. We reached out to Axon, which is the primary body camera provider for Sheriff's Office and police departments. And we went through our legal process and our purchasing process. And we came up with an agreement for the next 5 years. We would cover the expenditure for the first 2 years using our ARPA funds for technology, and then after that, it will fall on the Animal Services Department.
Sure.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have discussion items. Number 17 is Tax Commissioner's 2024 budget, and Janera Walker is here to discuss that. And just as a reminder, we are putting the 3-minute limit on all the comments.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. For the record, we have submitted all of our auditing information to Finance as well, so we're good on that end. I made sure to double check. I'm just here based on a conversation that Mr. David Corbin had with Tax Commissioner Greg Baker on Friday, just to make sure that everybody understands that he has agreed with David Corbin that he will keep his 2023 budget as long as that payroll line item is that $1,340,207 like it was in 2023, and also that his part-time line item is that 105, which includes the 53,000 that you guys had approved on in December to have fixed. He would withhold any kind of request that he has until that mid-year review discussed with Mr. David Corbin. So we just wanted to bring it forward and let you guys know that he is okay with that once he does make those changes and he has all those numbers, including that part-time line item corrected. Okay? Any questions?
Not of you, but of staff, of Dr. Corbin. Is that correct, as she stated, and has that change been made in the current budget before us?
So I had a very good conversation with the tax commissioner. I think it was Friday. What we agreed to, and I think I communicated to the board, was the 24 budget that will stay intact. Any additional funds, I think it was about $217,000, would in fact be brought back before the board in a year adjustment once we had a chance to look at the books. I don't know anything about in terms of the $23. Those monies are kind of already spent. So whatever's in the 24 budget, what we presented is the number that we're looking at, regardless of line item. I didn't talk about line item.
I just want to make sure that the 53 that the Board of Commissioners did make the adjustment for last month.
That will be incorporated, yes, ma'am.
That will be incorporated.
That will be incorporated.
Okay. And we should be clear then. I would ask that the tax commissioner, when he gets a chance, just to make sure, because I don't want you coming back saying that's not in your line item. So again, just be sure about the numbers, because Dr. Corbin is saying that 53 will be included in the upcoming numbers 2024 budget.
If I may, I want to make sure we're all clear. Part of the outreach, Mr. Baker, was to make sure that half of the board, we appreciate the work that they've done, appreciate the results that again, I've talked about this budget and other items sometimes not being perfect, and that's okay. I think we're encouraged that we'll work together to figure out what those items should be and make sense, and when in doubt, just come back to the board.
Understood. I'm hopeful that all of the elected officials and department heads as well knows that there is an open door policy. In the past, 5 years that I've sat here, I've not seen, a service get denied or a request get denied out of spite, right? We make sure that you all have what you need in order to service our constituents, because they're our neighbors, right? And so when they're not serviced or something goes wrong, guess who they're calling? Guess who they're talking to in the line at Kroger? It's us. So again, just want to make sure we're all on the same page, and that you all have what you need to carry out the service to the constituents. With that, I yield.
Welcome.
Number 18, we have probate court matters. Judge Christina Peterson.
want to make sure that the 3-minute comment didn't apply to me. Is that right?
Chairman?
It does, but we can make some exception.
Yeah.
Oh, you need.
I need a little second. It depends on how much I have to state, but I've never seen that limitation on any elected official in prior meetings prior to today.
And then we'll let you do is just summary.
Okay. This is, sorry, I was about to start like I was in court. My name is Christina J. Peterson. I'm your probate judge. I wanted to come here today to just put out some information on the record, and I would like to not be limited to putting out the truth. And I won't go, see, at first I was gonna like present you with actual numbers. I don't wanna take up your time. I'm just gonna read them. But I do want to share some information with the board. And as I spoke previously to this current board, my comments are generally not to you all because you were not here. We just need to do better moving forward in certain things. To the public, my main concern when we're considering the budget and we're talking about the budget, I want to put out facts. There's a $127 million budget. The probate has $1 million of that. The tax commissioner has about $3 million of that. The coroner has $625,000. So my budget is not even 1% of the total budget. The tax commissioner is 2.5%. The coroner is 0.5%. You're making all of this outrage on these 3 elected officials, but where is this other money that we're talking about? We got another about 123 million. Where's the outrage? And I want to be clear to this county and to the Board of Commissioners that I have been nothing but transparent. And I think that's what gives you all opportunity to be upset and complain. And I think that's what gives the Sentinel opportunity to complain and Randy Travis, because I'm transparent. Prior to me being in this office, there was no transparency. I see some things in the financials here. There's no transparency. That's a problem. So the people who are actually transparent and submitting data and records, they're getting attacked. But let's just put a little data out here for the public to consider. There's such things as investigative reporters. We don't have that in Douglas County. We have selective reporters. They select what they want to report on. So I just want to talk about generally. We're talking about, I mentioned last time I was here that change in that vote that you so graciously gave to the sheriff's office. Well, the vote changed the sheriff's budget by at least $3.4 million. And it might be a little more than that because I only calculated the increase of his salaries by his current employees, but he also has unfilled positions where those salaries were increased where I haven't calculated that. So the items that the actual total benefits plus salaries that you increased his budget by was probably more than upwards of $4 million. Now, when I pulled all of these open records and I said, okay, let me see the sheriff's current budget and what it is now after that vote. The number is the same, 40 million. Where's the money? Well, I contacted the county. The money is being held in a contingency fund. Well, okay, well, give me a report from your contingency fund on how much is allocated to the sheriff and how much is allocated to everyone else. We don't have those numbers. We don't have that. I said, I'm sorry, are you finance? Who else would have it if you don't have it? Well, we don't know. Where's the outrage? That's all I'm asking. Where's the outrage? Right now, the 2023 amended budget for the sheriff, and no disrespect to the sheriff, I support the sheriff's office as well, and it's not an attack on him. I'm talking about transparency here. It's 40,000, 40.3 is what his budget appears to be, but it's been increased by a BOC vote where the money was not moved after the vote. Finance or administration or somebody's not giving these people their money, so it doesn't show up in their budget when you pull an open record. So now he has like a $45 million budget. Okay, Still, we have the probate at my 1 million. And keep in mind, before I start, and that's why I'm not going to go too deep in, because I've talked to some of our commissioners. Chairman Miller, you did come to me and say you would support my request. So privately you said that. You haven't said it publicly. So that's why I'm here again today, just in case you might have changed your mind over the year. But I'm just going to say that anybody who has questions about my office or the transparency, please visit my office. I hear a lot of people coming in and saying things about the probate who've never visited the probate. There has been no data, no information, nothing to challenge anything. And let's talk about, and I'm going to go briefly on records, fees, actually. I know Ms. Bachtel mentioned fees. Let's talk about it. Our duly elected board, that was addressed previously, and they agreed not to limit or cap. It's funny that the limitations and cap only came after certain people got in office. People been getting these fees for years. The prior clerk of Superior Court got her fees. The prior probate got his fees, and there was never a problem. It was a rumor that was started that the prior judge only collected half of his fees. You never heard him say that publicly. You've never heard him say it publicly. Also, I did an open records. You never seen a contract between him and the county where he agreed to give any fees back to the county. Stop spreading. Like, here's the thing. In 2024, I have sat for all of my term, and I have not come in here and I haven't come before you and said anything. And this year, if anybody wants to bring false information, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to present data. Next time, I'm going to have my spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations with the actual data. Okay? So let's not talk about fees. As I said, nobody has put in any information to dispute anything that I stated. When I say I have 4 jobs and I get paid for 1.5 of them. So a part of my request to the BOC in my this year's budget was a budget neutral pay raise. Now you say, oh God, she's asking for a pay raise. It's funny that the public is not informed of all the pay raises that's been occurring the last 2-3 years. The thing about it is when I ask for it, I speak publicly and say it. But there's a lot of other elected officials and a lot of other officials that are asking for it that the public doesn't get to hear from. So when you have to do the open record request, you need to get the New World request that's actually input by the departments that have the line items that specific requests. Well, if you would see, even this year, there's pay increases for county people in the county commissioner, pay increases for intergovernmental services, pay increases for human resources, salary adjustments for risk and safety, solicitor's office, 15% increase for all attorneys. All of these things, everybody is asking for pay increases, but when we're talking about you want to target and target the probate, and you want to try to minimize what I do, but no one here has come and saw what I do. So I would ask you, I know I saw a post, Chairman Miller, that you stated, and you were adamant about your support of the sheriff's office, and you said he did a good job. I would ask you to also come to my office so you can understand what we actually do in the probate, because Ricky Dobbs, Commissioner Dobbs has come to my office. He got to understand, and we got to explain and show him what we actually do. I have 4 jobs. I am a judge. I am a clerk of courts. That's Annetta Stembridge. That's the equivalent of her job. I also am an administrator. I have a whole staff, and I'm a vital records custodian, right? So that is 4 jobs, and I get paid for one, which is the vital record custodian. There's a lot of stuff that goes behind it, but I'm grossly underpaid, and I have been since I got here for the judicial portion. And I stand on that. And nobody, again, has been able to present any data or anything to combat that. So, like I said, just my request this year is budget neutral. It's just other than what the county proposed to take out. Again, in 2024, I will use my entire budget. One, we have jury trial expenses. There was some myth that we would never have jury trials in the court of the probate court. Well, we had our first one last year, and we have several scheduled, at least 5 for this year. I would need legal support. I have no legal support. And we also have legal expenses as well. And I don't want to go, again, when we talk about, I talked about everybody's request, just put more facts on the table. And I just want to know how, this is just me, because I've been transparent in this county. How is it that, though, there have been pay increases, but I don't think it's been public knowledge. So I just want to understand how that happened. There's been pay increases of at least, well, several departments have been, I know county administrator pay over the 2021 through 23, maybe upwards of 30,000 increase. There's the HR, I know it was a 22,000 increase. DOT admin has been increased 80,000. The magistrate, 23,000, 31,000. Does the public know about this? Because maybe the public is focusing on the probate because that's the only information that's released to the public. But I feel like the public should know about all of these pay increases. All of these, everybody around me has been getting their raises, and they haven't had to articulate or show any piece of additional work that they've had. But I've showed you from coming into this, it's not she knew what the court paid. She knew what, no, she didn't. When she came in, when I was elected, this job changed. It was no longer a non-Article 6 court. It was a new court. It was an Article 6 full probate court, and I advised you all, or not you, but the prior board, of the qualifications that were equal to the Superior Court. And I advocated it, I showed it, I put the information out there, it was never disputed. But everybody around me can just say, I want a raise, and they've gotten it. So again, I stand on it. I also, I know the tax commissioner mentioned his, which I believe he deserves. I looked at his. And honestly, the sheriff deserves his too. I looked at his. Think about it. You all raised everybody on his staff. His nephew makes more than him. His second in command makes more than him. That makes no sense. So for him to just pull out just to spite us so you would not agree to ours, I have an issue with that. But again, I stand before you today and say I do support all of those constitutional officers who have requested their raise publicly. For transparency, I hope you support our request. Thank you. Have any questions? I'm here.
Comments? Thank you very much.
That concludes the agenda items, Chairman.
Commissioners, are there any comments? Attorney Coleman, do we need to go into?
We do not need to go into executive session today, Mr. Chairman.
Executive session. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.